Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Ball and All a podcast. My name is Mpho, and I'm the host of the Ball and All podcast. We talk all things basketball, NBA, WNBA, Basketball Africa League, which finished over this weekend. Congratulations to US Monastir. Now we're moving into big things now. It's the NBA Finals. We're going to be talking NBA Finals, and then after that, we're going to be talking WNBA. WNBA is looking really good. The Aces are 9-1 with Becky Hammond just running through that league with the Aces. The Atlanta Dream are dreaming higher these days, playing some really good basketball. And also my Sparks. I support the Aces and also support the Sparks, but my Sparks just not doing well. 5-6 start. They struggled against Dallas this morning. All South African morning last night, and it's they had to pull it through. But my word, Liz Cambage is a dominant force in the paint and a massive story. They have this massively big lineup of Chiney Ogumike Neka, her sister, as well as Liz at the center. They've also got Brittany Sykes and Katie Lou Samuelson. Big lineup. Takes rebounds, blocks shots, really defensive. But on the opposite end, they can score buckets, and they did that the moment Dallas wanted to come back in. But we're not talking that today. You can see from my background, I'm not at the Chase Center. I just wanted to show everyone the Chase Center because that's the site of the first NBA Finals, and that's what this podcast is. It's an NBA Finals preview. If you want to follow me, please follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Mpho, and subscribe to the Ball and All YouTube channel. So I was thinking about what to discuss on this thing, and I was like, well, actually, let's give people a sense throughout the finals as to how the finals are going. If you're watching the game and trying to figure out in each game who's doing well, who's not, these are the things that you need to be looking out for in the finals, and they could largely determine who's going to win this finals. It's a battle between the top two defenses in the regular season. The Celtics were first. The Warriors were second. But the one thing that you need to look out for, or the one thing that everybody doesn't understand, is that the Celtics now are the best offensive team in the playoffs, and the Celtics are the best defensive team in the playoffs. Oh, they were second best, but we'll count them there and thereabouts. And so that's where I think this game is going to lie. It's how that Golden State offense comes up against thing, and that's the first thing I'm talking about. First thing to watch out for is how that offense goes against Boston's size. Boston have this lineup with Robert Williams, Al Horford, the two wings, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and you've got Marcus Smart at the point. Marcus Smart's the Defensive Player of the Year. All five of those players in that starting lineup are bigger and lengthier than the Warriors starting lineup. I think Andrew Wiggins is one of the biggest guys with Draymond, but all five positions, the Celtics are bigger and longer, which makes it harder to do screens, makes it harder to move around because the lanes are clogged. It makes it harder to pass, makes it harder to get to the basket, and that's what Robert Williams is there to do. He's going to try and get to the basket as much. He's trying to defend the basket as much as possible. But the problem with that lineup for Boston is the fact that they can't score. I think they were 94.5 points per 100 possessions. That's very low. The Warriors offense throughout the playoffs, 116 points per 100 possession. That is the most in the playoffs. The Celtics, I think, are around about 110, but they have the biggest net differential at 6.7 points, largely because of them having the best defense in the playoffs. Remember the Celtics, and this is a story about the Celtics. The Celtics were under 500 at the beginning of the year. In January, they're under 500. They didn't know what was going on. They were fighting. They were trying to figure out how it was going to click, and then it clicked, and it clicked on the defensive end, and that identity has carried them through. They beat the Nets 4-love. They swept the Nets. They also took out the defending champions Milwaukee with Giannis. And so the question for me is, how does now this Warriors offense, because the Warriors can go death lineup with Jordan Poole and Draymond at the 5. That's their small ball lineup. That small ball lineup can score a lot of points. However, against the Boston size and defense, can they do it? They're still primarily, everyone thinks the Warriors are a 3-point shooting team, and they are. I think from a proportion perspective, they score more proportion of their points from three than in the paint. But predominantly, especially throughout these playoffs, when they've struggled, especially against Memphis, which is a team similar to the Boston, even in size situation and in the size argument, they scored 108 points per 100 possession. That's the lowest of the playoffs that they've had. Scored 120 in round one, 121 against Dallas in night, and they ended up with 108 against Memphis. And that's what I'm thinking. If Boston can keep them around that 108 mark, points per 100 possession, they could find themselves in with a chance. The second thing to watch out for, which I think is going to be quite interesting actually, is the battle at the rim. I just spoke about Boston size, and you would expect with Boston size they'd be able to get a lot of boards, but they don't. They're not the best rebounding team in the league, and Andrew Wiggins from Golden State Warriors, he is an offensive rebound gobbler. He's taken the most offensive rebounds in the playoffs, and he could be a game changer, especially in those possessions where, for instance, if a three does not fall, Andrew Wiggins is there to clean it up. And that's going to be quite interesting to see how Robert Williams and Al Horford and Grant Williams, because that's that center rotation, that front court rotation, how they handle that, and maybe even Daniel Tice. I don't think they'll be. If Daniel Tice plays, you know that the Celtics are done. But the battle at the rim is going to be quite important. We also had Kevon Looney against Memphis, who took 22 rebounds in that closeout game against Memphis. That's the type of stuff that you're going to have to see. And he hasn't been taken out the rotation ever since. So those are the type of things you're going to have to see from watch out for, because I think if whoever wins the rebounding battle here wins, and that's to say, if you listen to my podcast, that's where I always speak about is if you win the battle on the glass, you most likely will win it. The other side is the amount of blocks. If Boston are blocking everything and Robert Williams is healthy, and that's the battle at the rim. If Robert Williams isn't there, it's a little bit easier for teams to score. But when Robert Williams is when he's not there, when he is there, he makes it very hard. That defense is based on Robert Williams. You can't get around him, and he's such a key theme for that. I know they've got the defensive player of the year, but they have one of the best centers in the league, one of the best defensive centers in the league. So you've got one at the point of attack, one at the rim, and then you've got these rangy wings, and that's what Boston is, and that's the battle at the rim. If Robert Williams is healthy, the Celtics have more chance of getting through. On the other hand, if Andrew Wiggins is getting rebounds, offensive rebounds, then the Golden State have a massive, massive chance at winning this. The next one is the end of quarter play. Both teams, Celtics, best second quarter team in the playoffs, lights out in the second quarter. They run away with it. Both teams, when they have a 10-point lead, they go on to win games most of the times. But at the end of quarters, and this is something that I noticed with the Celtics, end of quarters, the Celtics will tend to kind of fizzle out. And we saw that with the Miami series. Jimmy Butler had some massive runs. Miami had a massive run in that elimination game, in that game 7. At the end of quarters, even in the end of the game, they were trying to get themselves back. And that's something that Boston need to watch out for against a team that is one of the best end of quarter teams, sequence teams in the league. They are that good. As I've spoken about in point 1, they move around, they give themselves the best looks. And that is what this Golden State Warriors team has. LeBron has spoken about end of quarters in deciding NBA finals, especially in the finals against the Warriors. He's spoken a lot about end of quarter play, about how about the Warriors put pressure on you in the end of quarters, and you need to be able to closing out quarters is more important than actually starting out quarters. And Boston are a very good team starting out the gate, but at the end they tend to fade and tend to wane as you bring in those bench players and those rotation players. That's going to have to change, especially with a team again like Golden State Warriors that is the best fourth quarter team in the playoffs. I think they scored 21 more points, 20 plus more points per game in the fourth quarter against any team. So they've outscored all the teams by 21 points. Not in every game, but in total points, they lead in the fourth quarter play, and they're above by 21 points, which is massive if you think about it. And the clutch play is also really important. And I think that's what the Celtics are going to have to try and figure out. The Derek Whites and all of those guys are going to try, and Jaylen Brown as well. Jaylen Brown, best fourth quarter shooting percentage in the playoffs. and gets about 42%. 3-point shooting percentage. Worst 3-point shooting percentage, I think it's fifth worst 3-point shooting percentage in the third quarter of the playoffs, and that's at 20%. It's the largest differential between best and worst in the playoffs. But that kind of tells you what it is. In the crunch time, can they do it? I know Jaylen Brown can do it, but obviously that's what the Celtics are going to have to fight through. We saw in that Miami series, they really struggled at the end of quarters to close out quarters, to give themselves that they'd open up a 10, 12, 13-point lead, and then it'd be back at 6 by the end of the quarter, and it gives teams life, and you need to kind of snuff them out. One last thing, final thing to look out for is the role player contributions. Derek White on the Celtics, Marcus Smart on the Celtics, also Al Horford as a role player on the Celtics, especially on the defensive end. If they do their jobs, they'll win. But from an offensive end, Marcus Smart needs at least 3 games of 20 points per game. He did that in Game 7. He scored 24 points. We need more of those, at least 3 of those games, 20 points per game. On top of that, and on top of that, Derek White. Derek White played one of the games they played in Boston earlier this year against Golden State. He was 0 for 8 from shooting 3. That can't happen again. He needs to give them something offensively, something. Move around, do something, but you need to give them something offensively, especially when you're giving guys like Marcus Smart rest. You already are losing out from a defensive end. When you're in, you need to give them something. Peyton Pritchard, 72% effective field goal percentage at home, 45 away. It's that type of differential that needs to be evened out for the Celtics to come through. For the Warriors, on the other hand, the role players, Andrew Wiggins, he needs to give us a series like he gave us against Dallas, defensively and offensively. He's a quiet assassin. That's who he is. He's not going to lead your team, but he's an effective role player in providing you the best, providing you what you need. And I think Andrew Wiggins is going to be quite important in this. I'm not going to call Draymond a role player. I'm not going to call Clay a role player. I'm not going to, we've obviously know Steph isn't. But Poole off the bench, Jordan Poole off the bench is going to be so crucial. If he can provide the same offense against a team that has the best opponent field goal percentage, which is the lowest opponent field goal percentage in the league, can he do it against Boston? If he can do it when the lights are brightest, Jordan Poole, the Golden State Warriors have something in Jordan Poole. They've got Kuminga. I don't think they're going to play much. Moses Moody, I don't think he's going to play much. Kevon Looney needs to be there, hounding the boards, giving them some size at the start of games. He's going to be quite important. His, I think, stat is the rebounds. He needs to be fighting and hustling for rebounds, making effort plays, doing that to kind of give Golden State Warriors, keep them in the game when their shots are not falling. They haven't shot well these playoffs like we know them that they can, and so you're going to need help from everybody to try and get them through. Otto Porter is so important. Gary Payton II is really important. He changes that lineup a little bit because you want to go ultra defensive. You bring Gary Payton in, and the thing about the Warriors, and I think this is where I'm going to finish. My pick for the NBA playoffs is what I'm going to be talking about now. And I think this is what's going to finish. This is what's going to decide the series. If you look at both teams, Celtics have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, best top 2, arguably one of the best duos in the league. But on the other hand, they've got Steph, they've got Clay, they've got Draymond, and they've got Andrew Wiggins. You need to try and stop all of this. Yes, Draymond doesn't score, but he's an assist machine. And it goes back to point number 1. Defensively, the Celtics can do it. If they can defend with their lives and keep the Warriors in check, they can put down games, but they need help from their role players. There's a lot more that needs to go right for the Celtics than for the Warriors to win this series. And the other thing, and one of the bigger things, is what happens when the Celtics arrive in the Oracle Arena, Game 1, Game 2, or Chase Center. No, Oracle Arena is now defunct. Chase Center in San Francisco. They've never been here before. It's their first time. I've started a new job, and so like everything's new. You're looking up. You're nervous. You don't know what's going to happen. You're trying to figure out what this is. A little bit of imposter syndrome. Do you feel comfortable in the place, in the moment? Playing at the Chase Center is different in the regular season than playing in the NBA Finals. And this is it. Basketball's greatest mountain. You've arrived. Can you take it over? And that's going to be something that we're going to be wanting from the Celtics to bring out. Everybody said Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have won great. And in January, people wanted them traded. But they've proven to everybody that they are one of the best duos in the league. And Jason Tatum is one of the top 10 players in this league right now. Question is, can they take that next step? Jason Tatum's taking some loves Kobe. He's taking some inspiration from Kobe. This is a Kobe moment. The Warriors, on the other hand, they're a dynasty. They are trying to let everybody know that the dynasty has not died. And the dynasty took a little bit of a left turn, but they're back now. They're back now, and they've got a runway with young stars in Wiseman, Moody, Kuminga, who next season could be important. Andrew Wiggins is also under 30. And so that's the type of thing that they're trying to do. They're trying to pretty much for the haters. This one is for the haters. They thought they were done. Steph was done. They thought Clay was done with those injuries. Draymond Green, nobody ever gives him anything, and he's going to try and prove that he should have been Defensive Player of the Year. So they've got a chip on their shoulders, whereas the Celtics are new to this entire thing. Ime Udoka in his first season, congratulations to him making it into the NBA Finals. It's a bright-eyed moment. Are they going to be bright-eyed and shocked, or are they going to come and feel like they're at home? And this, many people are saying this is like similar for the Celtics to the 91 Bulls with Scottie and Michael when it got to those NBA Finals against the Lakers and they won against the Lakers. It's something similar to that. And if they can do this, the Celtics, it creates a runway for further more success, for a new dynasty similar to one of the Warriors going forward. Remember, if the Celtics don't win here, Milwaukee's coming back stronger. The Nets are coming back stronger. To do this again makes it a lot harder to try to get back to the mountain. On the other hand, the Warriors, they've done this before. You can see behind me those four banners for the Warriors. They're missing one? No, they're not. I think they're not. They've got three, and those are the banners behind. They've done this before. Can they do it again? Can the Celtics come through? And that's what it is. But my prediction, because I think the Warriors, if I look at the top four of the Warriors, it has to be them. It's them in 6. If this goes to a Game 7, I might change it to Celtics. However, Game 7 at the Chase Center, the traveling up and down, could be a little bit too much for the Celtics. But I wouldn't write them out. They're a really great basketball side. But for me, it's Warriors in 6. And yeah, they get their fourth title in this era, and they restart the dynasty conversations again. Outside of that, thank you very much for watching, and please do follow me on Twitter and Instagram and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Outside of that, we'll be back. We'll do probably post-game recaps of all the 7 games or 6 games, however many it is. And yeah, all the best to Celtics and to the Warriors. And yeah, have a great evening. Goodbye, good night, and Sale Kakafiso.